Growing up with Pokemon ROM hacks, it was always so much fun to play through new regions, with new stories, characters, and sometimes even Pokemon. But I feel that over the last few years, the scene has kind of fallen into a weird obsession with difficulty hacks, which was fun at first, dumping tons of hours into projects like Radical Red, Inclement Emerald, and even Elite Redux. Yet, as the years flew by, it grew a bit tiring, as it was only every few months we would hear news about a ROM hack actually trying to stand out among the gigantic sea of enhancement hacks. But 2025 kicked off with a bang, giving us a ROM hack of the likes that I hadn't seen in nearly a decade. It had an almost entirely new region, a new story with new characters, and over 250 new Pokemon. This is Pokemon Pisces, a Pokemon Emerald ROM hack that changes everything you know about the Hoenn region. Now, hold on a second. I just said the hack had a brand new region, but I also mentioned it takes place in Hoenn. So how does that work? Well, this is very far from the Hoenn you're used to, as it's been massively transformed after the events of Pokemon Emerald. A lot of those water-filled routes you were used to are now composed of small islands connected by bridges, and the entirety of Mount Pyre has been frozen over. But the biggest change is the fact that rather than starting in Little Root Town, you'll begin in Pacifidolog Town, a place most people visit at the very end of their adventure. So you'll kind of be working your way through the game backwards, with the first gym being in Sootopolis City. Progression in this hack is very interesting, because the routes have a non-linear feel to them, as most of the trainers are completely optional, and there are usually multiple ways to reach the next town or route after. But with big routes also comes the need to prepare for them, with tons of healing items, Pokeballs, and repels. Luckily, Pisces gives the player a ton of money from defeating trainers, meaning you'll rarely ever run out of resources if you prepare accordingly. And there's even a few Pokemon centers in the middle of these giant routes that may not sell tons of items, but at least allow you to heal your team. Where Pisces obviously shines though is the new Pokemon. It's been a very long time since we've had a completed Pokemon ROM hack with both a brand new region and new Pokemon, so just their existence alone is incredible. But I'm going to be honest, Pisces has some of the most interesting designs I've ever seen, and they're all really fun to use in battle, thanks to both their diverse level up learn sets and a wide variety of TMs handed to you in the early game. Even the few canon Pokemon that exist in the game have been given new sprites and updated stats to compete with all the new ones. But in Pokemon Pisces, you'll find Pokemon battles to be a lot more interesting than other ROM hacks. Rather than plowing through countless filler trainers, each one instead felt like their teams were handcrafted with specific moves and abilities to make each trainer feel like an interesting fight. The gym challenge has also been kicked up a notch, as once you enter, you won't be able to leave until the gym leader has been defeated. While this change might sound obnoxious to some players, I really liked that the gyms were now a gauntlet rather than just a single challenging battle. But the fun doesn't stop there, as Pisces offers some quality of life features to make the experience even smoother. First, you'll get the EXP very early, just after completing the first few trainer battles. Secondly, the game features a level cap, but it's handled in an interesting way. When you reach the town of the next gym leader, your experience gain will increase drastically. That way, leveling new team members will be incredibly easy. Pisces is a really fun hack, and it was definitely made with a lot of love and care, but it's not perfect, and I'll explain why. So let's move on to one of the most controversial aspects of this new ROM hack, the difficulty, or I guess the Pokemon battles as a whole. And I won't lie that most of what I say here is kind of going to contradict a lot of the positives I just talked about. So the beginning of the game plays very smoothly. You get your starter and catch some extra Pokemon to form your team. The first two gyms are pretty easy. Gym 1 you might struggle with a bit, but Gym 2 was honestly a walk in the park. Where the game starts to really bug you is the path to the third one, where you first have to navigate a snowy mountain, followed by a tunnel filled with ghost Pokemon trainers. And this is where the concept of every trainer having a custom team becomes more of a nuisance than anything else, as I constantly found myself having to heal my team after every battle, which wasn't that big big of a deal thanks to the constant flow of money you were getting, but it gets even worse when the game introduces you to a status effect called Panic. Panic does two things. First, all your damage will be reduced by 20%, and secondly, your moves will consume more power points. This effect was being spammed across my team alongside a plethora of other PP reducing moves, and even after I cleared that part of the game, I still felt like I was consuming way too many power points each fight. So on top of having to heal my entire team after every battle, I also had to spam each of their moves with ethers. This also made exploration feel like a lot more of a chore, since rather than actually trying to explore every corner of the map, I was just dodging trainers in hopes I'd reach the next town. I did have other complaints about the difficulty, but seeing that the developers are actively fixing a lot of them, I didn't think they would be worth mentioning. Now, this isn't something I normally do when reviewing a ROM hack, because as a fan game developer myself, I don't really enjoy people pestering me with features to add to the game. But again, as a fan game developer, I do believe there are some things that could be added to Pisces for a smoother experience. The first one is type icons in battle. I'm not going to lie, there were a lot of Pokemon that I just for the life of me could not guess the types of. And even after a ton of trial and error, it kind of became a slog whittling down their health bar with neutral or even not very effective moves. On the contrary, I do know there are players who enjoy being surprised by the typings of new Pokemon, so perhaps making it optional or disabling it in the wild could help if possible. Second, battle speed up. I know this is a bit of a controversial one, as a lot of people, especially developers, aren't a fan of the fast forward button. But considering how much time you'll be spending in battle, I don't see any harm in allowing players to speed up the animations while still being able to enjoy the game's incredible soundtrack. Finally, the advanced Pokédex. I spent a lot of time scrolling through the Discord to find out what level certain Pokemon evolved or when they learned a useful move. Adding the Pokédex from hacks like Inclement Emerald and Emerald Legacy would be incredibly helpful, as it shows you the stats, learnable moves, and evolution requirements of every Pokemon. I did want to end by saying that these are just suggestions, that the developers can disregard if they please, and I'm not even sure if they can be added to Pisces specifically, but I still think they would all make for a greater gameplay experience if possible. But even with all my criticism, Pisces is still an incredibly well-made ROM hack, and even after release, the developers are still hard at work balancing and even reworking various Pokemon, moves, and other aspects of the game. I am going to be giving it an 85% on the playability scale, as I do believe in its current state and lack of documentation, you might not enjoy the game as a more casual player. But if you're someone who likes a challenge and adores new Pokemon, then yeah, you'll have a blast with it. That's about all I have to say though. Be sure to subscribe for more Pokemon fan games and ROM hacks, and thank you to my channel members for their continued support. Have a nice rest of your day, and goodbye!